All right, well, let's get going. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone. My name is Mark Rochelle. I'm a director here at JIT, a ServiceNow Premier Solutions and Services provider. I'm honored to have the CEO of our partner, Automate Pro, with me today. We're going to serve as your host for the webinar, ServiceNow Upgrades Fast Without Furious. Now, I've been in the ServiceNow consulting space for nearly 10 years, working with clients to optimize the value they receive from their ServiceNow investment. Over this time, I've found that one of the biggest concerns and challenges organizations using ServiceNow have is preparing for and successfully implementing upgrades, especially if that organization is a legacy ServiceNow customer with a highly customized or configured instance. Now that ServiceNow is requiring that clients upgrade on a regular basis, being able to upgrade quickly and effectively is more important than ever before. However, upgrading your ServiceNow instance doesn't have to be difficult, and during today's webinar, we'll show you how to simplify your upgrade process. Now, before I turn the program over to Paul, I'd like to quickly review our agenda. We're going to start by talking a little bit about upgrade pain, which is something that we've all experienced. Paul's going to walk us through the fast upgrade quadrant, and we're going to talk about how you can move on from manual upgrades, which is something most organizations want to achieve. Then we're going to be having a little bit of fun in the spirit of the Olympics. We're going to pit Usain Bolt versus Automate Pro in a race to see who wins gold. Make sure you stick around for that. That's going to be a lot of fun. Then we have put together a very special promotion for everyone that's attending the webinar today that I'll walk you through. And we'll end with a client experience. We've got a very special guest who has actually worked with JIT and Automate Pro to optimize their upgrade process. So with that, and of course, at the end, we'll leave time for Q&A for anyone that has questions. I should mention that if you have questions throughout the program, please enter them into the Q&A session that you'll see at the bottom of your screen, and we'll get to those either during the program or certainly at the end. So with that, Paul, I'd like to turn it over to you. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Mark. A great introduction. I'm really excited to be here today. Thank you very much for JIT organizing this, this joint webinar. I'm really excited to share with you today the way that you can upgrade painlessly and fast in ServiceNow. Quick introduction to me, as Mark said, Paul Chorley, CEO and co-founder of Automate Pro. Automate Pro produce an app built within the ServiceNow ecosystem to intelligently test ServiceNow and relieve the pain of upgrades. We're really fortunate that we talk to a lot of ServiceNow customers across the globe. And singly, the biggest thing, as Mark mentioned, is that upgrades, especially platform upgrades, cause a lot of pain for ServiceNow customers, specifically around the amount of time that they take. So they find the speed of upgrades is too long. And compounded with that is that the upgrades take a lot of resource. Both in terms of the ServiceNow team, whether that be the sysadmins, the developers, the analysts, the testers, but also wider than just the ServiceNow team. It consumes resource from the business in terms of user acceptance testing, making sure that their processes are still going to work following the upgrade. And you know, the sort of the amounts of money that this costs in terms of, you know, sort of dollars can be, you know, really quite high. We were talking to a customer just the other day, and they were saying their upgrades, each upgrade costs them in excess of $500,000 every single time. So this is a big problem for people, which is why, you know, we're spending a lot of time focusing on this and teamed up with JIT to help customers resolve this and lessen that cost and that pain. ServiceNow recognize this themselves as well. I don't know if anyone's caught sight of the Forrester report that ServiceNow commissioned recently. That report by Forrester indicated that the total economic benefit of staying current on ServiceNow was in the region of $6.9 million for a typical sort of size customer. Obviously that varies depending on you know, the size of your instance and the business criticality, but we're talking big numbers here. So this is a problem that needs to be solved. And today what we'd like to do is share with you what we have heard from customers and our experience of how to make the upgrade process seamless, less painful, less costly. And we're in the really fortunate position that we've worked with hundreds of customers, ServiceNow customers across the globe. And what we realized after a period of time was that there were 4 things that the customers that upgrade painlessly and simply and easily all do. And we've put those into what we call the fast upgrade quadrant, and we're going to share that with you today. So it's almost like the secret sauce of fast upgrades. It's really simple. It's 4 things, and I'm going to share that with you now. I think we've all missed being in the office and working together collaboratively, standing around whiteboards, and certainly I have. I always take the pen when a whiteboard is available. So in the spirit of doing that now, I'm going to draw the fast quadrant for you rather than just present a slide with it on. So I'm going to try, imagine I'm standing up now with a whiteboard pen, and I'm going to draw this fast quadrant for you using my great drawing skills. So forgive me if my artistic abilities is not all that good, and my handwriting certainly needs some work. So this is the fast upgrade quadrant. And feel free to draw this out with me if you think it might be useful. But underline, my teachers at school always told me to underline my headings, so I followed their rules. And then as the name suggests, there is a quadrant, but one thing I'm just going to do is put a little circle in the middle of our quadrant, and you'll see why a bit later. So there are 4 things I mentioned that customers that are able to upgrade quickly, seamlessly and easily, they do 4 things. And the first thing that they do is that they all follow a consistent and repeatable framework or a process by which they do the upgrade. It's almost like it is like a project doing an upgrade, and it needs to be well thought out, and there needs to be a methodology or a process for doing the upgrade. Now, I know ServiceNow provide a lot of guidance, especially on their upgrade portal that they have, but we've devised our own method, and it consists of 6 simple steps that each have a set of tools and processes and assets that we use in order to execute that process. Everything through from step 1, which is planning, step 2, defining, 3, forming a baseline, and so on. And you move your way across that process in a consistent manner using these artifacts, and you are able to upgrade very swiftly and quickly. So the first thing is to have that framework or that process. The second thing that customers who are successful with fast upgrades do is that they automate. And specifically, they automate the 2 things that cause the most pain, and that is with regards to regression testing. So we must have the ability to automate the regression testing of the upgrade to make sure nothing's broken. But the second thing, which is often overlooked, is the ability to automate the creation and or update of documentation. If I can fit that in, I'm going to run out of room, as in the spirit of all whiteboards, we all run out of room on the docs, in the boxes. So we've got to be able to automate that documentation. There's no point being able to get ready for an upgrade, but still find that there is then 2 weeks worth of work to update our user guides or our process guides or standard operating procedures or whatever you call your business documentation. So the ability to be able to automate that is really key to be able to accelerate that upgrade process. Third thing that we need to be able to do is to simplify the upgrade process. Easily said, not so easily done. But so what do we really mean by that? We mean that this upgrade process needs to be something that non-technical people can do. Now we see often and we hear that the upgrade process consumes all of the technical resource within ServiceNow teams. So often developers become engrossed in the whole upgrade process. Maybe they're writing automated tests. It just consumes this, and it becomes a very technical exercise. So companies that upgrade very quickly are able to do it in a way that doesn't involve technical skills. And those technical resources are obviously very scarce. You know, ServiceNow developers and those kinds of people are not easily found. In essence, if I can get my pen working again, yep. We want the upgrade process to be almost as simple as pressing a button. I'm trying to draw a button there, by the way, on the screen. Hopefully that looks like a button. And our objective, our vision with the Automate Pro app is to make the upgrade process as close to being able to press a button and upgrade as possible. So things like being able to see the risk of upgrading at the touch of a button, in a way that a business user understands what problems I'm going to find if I upgrade today, not at a technical level, not at this script has changed, but a business impact level that we believe is super important, being able to do that. So we need to be able to simplify. We've mentioned testing before, and obviously Automate Pro, one of our specialisms is the ability to be able to test or ServiceNow very quickly and very well. Using our automated test, intelligent testing engine. But there's good testing and bad testing. And we believe that the upgrade process for people that do this very, very quickly is that they test from the perspective of a business user. So very much the testing, especially if it's automated, needs to follow the process exactly in the UI. So it needs to actually log in as particular users, actually navigate to catalog items or to particular forms within ServiceNow. So it's really got to simulate button press for button press, exactly what the end user will do. Because after all, on a Monday morning after an upgrade, you want absolute reassurance that when users come in and start to use the system, they can do all of the things that they did on the Friday before the upgrade. So the testing has to follow the business process. UI. And an extension of that really is that ServiceNow doesn't live in a bubble. So you must be able to do end-to-end testing. So if you're doing automated testing, you need to be able to follow a business process from one system, whether that be outside of ServiceNow, so maybe it's Salesforce or some other CRM system, into ServiceNow, and then from ServiceNow into maybe SAP or Oracle or your backend system or your integrated system. So that ability to do end-to-end testing is absolutely key. And that's got to be automated, and it's got to be press of a button, get that reassurance that those integrations are working. And if we do those four things, so if we utilize a repeatable and tried and tested framework, and we automated our testing and our documentation, and we're able to do that in a simple and non-technical way, and we test effectively and efficiently, then we have a really nice way to upgrade very quickly. So that results, those four things compounded, if you like, allow us to do very fast upgrades. If I just highlight that in nice green, lovely. That's what we're all seeking to do. And those are the four key ingredients that we've learned from having done this with lots and lots of customers. And Dennis and Brian will speak later about this approach actually in action with a ServiceNow customer. So that's the fast upgrade quadrant. Hopefully that's been useful for you. We always try to make webinars useful so that you learn something from these and can take these things away. Now, Brian mentioned just before that one of the things that we are going to do in this is to give you an example of one of these things and how we do that using Automate Pro. And a key thing that we will focus on here is around documentation, and in fact it's one of the stages of the our fast framework is to prepare and update documentation, not only for upgrade readiness but also in terms of user guides, process documentation and those sorts of things. And the really key thing here is that, you know, in my time working in IT, we've really not moved on very far in terms of producing documentation. When I started my career in IT sort of 20 years ago, I remember one of the first tasks I was given was to create a user guide for a system for a banking organization. And of course, the first thing I did was open up a word processor, or I think it was WordPerfect probably at that time, a very early version. And I started to put headings in, and I was putting in the steps of the process, and I was going and grabbing screenshots using Paint or something and dropping those into the Word document. And I must have spent days and days producing these user guides. And really, it's really it's quite visible how 20 odd years later on, we're still largely doing that to create documentation. So we really wanted to make a step change in that part of the process with Automate Pro. And as Mark mentioned earlier, in the spirit of the Olympics, I certainly have been enjoying watching the Olympics. Unfortunately, our friend here, Usain Bolt, is not competing this year, which I think is a huge shame, but I guess he deserves his retirement. We were trying to think about how we could demonstrate in a fun way how quick Automate Pro can create documents and update documents. And so we were thinking about things that were really fast, and obviously Usain Bolt is the fastest man who's ever lived. And I'm sure you're all aware that back in 2009 in Berlin, he ran a world record time, 9.58. So we thought, well, look, if we can create a document quicker than Usain Bolt can, then that sort of demonstrates how quickly, and it's also a bit of fun. So what we're going to do next is I'm going to live race the creation of a user guide document against a video running of Usain Bolt. So if you just allow me just to get that ready. So here I've got a video on the left hand side. I've got a video clip of that famous race from Berlin, and they're all ready to go on the starting line. On the right hand side here, just so a brief introduction, Automate Pro is an app which sits within your ServiceNow instance. You can run multiple automated tests. It's separate from ATF. It doesn't utilize any of the ATF technology. It's a completely separate test automation approach, which is very much based around business processes I spoke to, and a non-technical way of doing testing. It doesn't require developer resources to build the test or maintain them. Here I've got a typical kind of example test that I've run. You can see down here that the various sections of it have all passed testing. And in fact, if I want to look at the results of those tests, I can come into this viewer and use this sort of screenshot viewer to go through. These are all of the steps of the tests that have been executed with all of the nice green pass. That's what everybody wants to see through each step of the process. Now, having run my tests, and of course I want to, that's a really useful thing just in its own right. I may want to also create a test execution report, which says, these are all of the tests I've run. This is the version that we've run this particular test against. Incidentally, Automate Pro was the first company in the world to upgrade its ServiceNow instance. As you might expect, we always want to be the first to upgrade. So we upgraded our production instance to Rome in under 4 hours from early availability. So we're always proud to be the first in the world to do that. We've done our test execution report here. Here are all the steps. Obviously, if any of those steps failed, it would tell me that's happened. But my testing is all good. But the next thing I need to do is to be able to create or update my user guide with the latest screenshots and latest process. And this is where I would do that from. I would hit this create user guide button, and then that will create me a user guide with all of this process steps and the screenshots for me. And this is where I'm about to race it. So what I'm going to do to race these is I'm going to start the video over here, and just as they set off from the starting line, I'll hit this create user guide button. I'll press one other button here just to generate document, and then as soon as the document appears, I will pause the video. If Usain Bolt has got to the finish line, then obviously he's won. Otherwise, he'll be halfway down the track or thereabouts. Automate Pro will have won. So this is live, so anything can happen. and we'll see. So it's all quite fast and frantic as you'd expect, but so here we go. I'm going to get the race underway. So they're off. So I'm clicking create user guide, and now I'm generating the documents. And it's just appeared there on the right hand side. So I paused it, and it looks like on this occasion we've won gold because Usain Bolt's not quite made it to the finish line. It looks like he's 8.7 seconds. So just coming back over here. So I'm delighted that we've won gold. This is the document that's created. So this could be your user guide. This could be standard operating procedure, desk instructions, whatever you want to call it. It's all nicely hyperlinked. Obviously, all the formatting and things you can change as well. But you can see, you know, as well as doing the testing, the documentation is updated very, very quickly. I've got each step of the process defined for me. I can hyperlink down to the various sections. And all of these screenshots are now updated with the latest version, this being Rome that we're on. My user guides are effectively automatically updated for me as a byproduct of having done the testing. And you can see how quickly I can do that, less than the time it takes Usain Bolt to run his 100 meters. Should we just let him finish the race? Because I can't help but watch the end of this race because I think it's fantastic. And there he goes. Big shame that he's not running this year. But hopefully that was a bit of fun. We managed to win gold. Mark, I think I'll hand back to you at this point.
Thanks, Paul. That is really fantastic. You know, I don't know about you, but I've never seen any organization that could create any kind of documentation in under 10 seconds. But with the leveraging the power of the Automate Pro platform, as everyone just took a look at, it's now possible. And it's highly detailed. It's ready to go across the board. Just absolutely fantastic stuff. So thank you again, Paul, for that. We'll come back to you in just a moment. As I mentioned earlier in the agenda, we put together a really fantastic promotion for you where we're offering a free upgrade evaluation that includes a 90-minute discovery meeting. And within that meeting, we'll talk about the FAST framework quick reference, the upgrade scorecard, and the upgrade evaluation. And I'm going to ask Paul to just kind of walk us through what each of those deliverables are.
Yeah, sure. Jennifer, if you could move the slide on for me, that's fantastic. So I mentioned in the FAST framework, one of the key steps is to have a repeatable process or a framework for doing an upgrade. And we've come up with a really simple way of doing this 6-step process. Each of the phases of that process, we have a defined set of tools and artifacts that we use, whether that be, for example, with the defining the test strategy and the prioritization of tests. We have a power test plan matrix, which makes it really simple to assess the business criticality as against the how customized a particular process is. And it really helps just to model out the approach to testing, what we're going to do, what the priority is. And we'll follow this process through. So effectively in the evaluation, we help you with the plan part of this. We'll talk about your environment, which modules you use, what the business criticality is, and work that through with you. And if we move on to the next slide, Jennifer, these are the kinds of things we do alongside that. So we've got what we call the ServiceNow Upgrade Scorecard. So this is super helpful in understanding kind of your readiness to upgrade, and it takes into account what test strategies you've got, what plans you've got, what test scripts, what documentation you need to update, what the approach should be, all those sorts of things. So it's a really nice structured approach, which we'll go through in the evaluation. Just pop on to the next slide. And I mentioned the power test plan matrix. This is, again, a tried and tested way of helping you prioritize your tests, especially when you've got customized business process flows. We can help work that through with you and understand what the risk areas are and how to prioritize that. So really super excited about getting some of you working together with us on that and working with the JIT team.
Thanks, Paul. So if you'd like to take advantage of this awesome promotion, you can do so in one of two ways. First of all, you can reach out to your JIT sales rep directly, or you can contact us at promo@jitrs.com. Again, that's promo@jitrs.com. Now, this offer is valid only through September 30th. You can actually schedule the upgrade evaluation after September 30th, but you need to sign up before September 30th to have the upgrade evaluation in order to take care and take advantage of the free offering. So again, great value here, fantastic. If you're interested, please let us know. All right, and with that, now we've got a very special guest with us. Jennifer, if you can move forward. Yes, we've got a very special guest with us. I'm first going to introduce our Director of Delivery, Brian Kenfield, who has a very special guest. Brian, would you like to introduce your special guest for us, please?
Absolutely, Mark. Thanks for the handoff. Appreciate it. And in the spirit of the Olympics, Paul, I'd just like to congratulate you on that gold medal. Well done. So what we're going to do today is we're going to bring in Dennis Frere from Jackson's Companies. We just recently did an upgrade from ServiceNow Orlando to Quebec. And we had a pretty tight timeline. It was a 2-week timeline based on the arrangement with ServiceNow and their N1 requirements. So with that, I'm going to bring Dennis in. Dennis, if you wanted to share just a quick intro, and then we'll just have a little discussion around your experience with the upgrade with Automate Pro.
All right. Thank you for that. Yeah, so I started, this is Dennis Frere. I started my background in IT about 30 years ago, and I've been in several facets of IT service management since then. I'm currently the support center manager for Jackson's Companies. Founded in 1975, we're based out of Boise, Idaho, and we support Jackson's food stores, Jackson's energy and fuel distribution, Jackson's jet center, Jackson's car wash and capital distribution. And I'm glad to be part of this discussion.
Great, thanks, Dennis. Really appreciate that. So let's just get right into the conversation. So, you know, when we first started the engagement and having initial conversations with Jackson's, you know, we knew that we were in our tight timeline and, you know, wanted to make sure that we were following the protocols and meeting the expectations of Jackson's Foods. So prior to the upgrade, what drove the need for Jackson's to upgrade and, you know, or the upgrade to Quebec, and what were the initial concerns that you had prior to us engaging?
Yeah, well, as you know, being on Orlando, we were several versions behind. And to complicate matters, we didn't have any in-house expertise to develop nor maintain a regular upgrade cadence. It was my desire as a matter of best practice to be current with the release versions of our core applications.
Perfect. And, you know, as we, you know, kind of went through the initial conversations and set up the kickoff, once that upgrade process began with JIT, what were your expectations and also reservations as the kickoff started?
Good question. My expectations were made very clear, you probably remember, but that the experience effectively or our partnership with JIT brought forth to bear was that at a very high level, such that my level of effort for that matter would be really light touch given competing project demands that we had going at the same time.
Great.
And then, you know, as far as my expectations, you know, I expected JIT to treat me, you know, like a professional and conduct themselves professionally. I didn't want to have to manage the consultancy team. I've done that before in the past where I had to default to that, and it wasn't an ideal situation, but I really wanted to engage a highly experienced team that was unafraid of anticipating and perhaps addressing difficult upgrade related challenges. I expected JIT to be well connected with a higher tier of support to consult if it was needed. I also wanted to know that I wanted the GI team to know that by nature, you know, I'm highly anxious and paranoid in my approach to upgrade because, you know, negative impact can be very far reaching. And I needed their level of concern to match mine and to execute accordingly. I wanted JIT to own all aspects of what came before, during, and after the upgrade.
That's great. And yeah, I think that that's something that we touch base on with our daily meetings, daily check-ins around, what that, anxiety and paranoia that we, kind of joked about, but, certainly was relevant during the entire process. So really appreciate the color on that. So when the upgrade was completed, what were Jackson's company's thoughts on the outcome and how successful it was? And also, could you, add the comments from the executive team as well?
Oh, sure. Yes. Well, first off, I was very pleased, Brian. We ran into a few timing constraints, as you know, as well as some workflow challenges that were impacted. But the GI team understood my level of concern, at least I believe so. And they didn't cater to me, and they didn't placate me. They just got to work, to be honest. By having our daily stand-ups, as you mentioned, at 8 a.m., which I will say were a challenge for me, we developed an important partnership and a crucial level of trust that transcended the level of skill necessary to make the upgrade successful. And I wanted to add that JIT remained engaged throughout at various levels, including the technical planning, the ownership of duties, strategic implementation, for example, which I think increased our level of success for the ServiceNow upgrade. And as far as the leadership was concerned, they couldn't have been more happy because, we were under a very, very tight deadline, and we didn't want to be forced upgrade and then have to deal with the repercussions of that because of our customizations.
Appreciate that. Also, wanted to just ask a quick question around, we did identify a couple of defects when we went to Quebec in the test environment. You want to talk a little bit about how that coordination between the Jackson's team, the high support team, and also the supporting ServiceNow account team?
Yeah, well, if we're talking about the go live process, I was especially pleased in how the events leading up to, during, and post go live went. I felt there was an eagerness from the GIT team members to collaborate with us and align on a very, very tight schedule, as you noted previously. Mm-hmm. Everyone on both teams approached go live event really laser focused, in my opinion, and ready to go. I personally appreciated and love how we ultimately came up with what I call the cheat sheet for, our precise times of when we would meet in our war room on Sunday. Unfortunately, it was on a weekend, but we got over it. Defining the cadence in which the changes occurred, or if it was just being on standby and waiting for updates. And as I recall, we had a plan B and we had a plan C. So, anticipating that things may not go as planned. Additionally, everyone was willing to share their mobile phone numbers in case everything went sideways. All teams, including JIT, showed up on time on Sunday. We all checked in and we followed our plan to a T. I think I found the check-ins, the verbosity of the chats flying across my iPhone screen allayed the normal anxieties and jitters of a major upgrade that I have. The Jackson's team always knew where we stood each step of the upgrade.
Fantastic. Really appreciate that, the commentary there. One last question that I have is, after we've gone through the process and we felt very stable after the Quebec upgrade, there was, a closing session that we had, and then we also wanted to provide some closing documentation. What were your thoughts on what was provided, and just give some, thoughts on the detail there?
Sure. You probably remember in one of our many stand-up meetings, daily stand-up meetings, I had requested that we get a copy of our customer record from JIT so that for future ServiceNow upgrades, we had a clear and comprehensive document. And the reason why is we wanted to capture all the various nuances and the unplanned occurrences while they were fresh in our minds. Because if you let things go too long, you forget about them. And I thought it was important to do this as soon as possible. And we wanted this to serve as an artifact we could easily reference and take into consideration for future planning. Mark, who was in charge of that document, he did a great job of encapsulating that information in a document he sent to us a short time after the upgrade. And we've since added Mark's document in our Confluence instance as a historical upgrade artifact.
Awesome. Really appreciate the time, Dennis, and obviously appreciate the confidence that Jackson's Food showed with JIT to get them through the upgrade process. You know, as I mentioned before in the opening, we had 2 weeks to complete the Jackson's company's upgrade due to the N1 release schedule. With the Automation Pro application, we were able to rapidly run the test scripts with the FAST framework, leverage the live playback screenshot test scripts that are provided, identify skipped records, and resolve in the test environment quickly. And we also identified 2 defects as a result of the Quebec upgrade itself, and we're able to resolve those, get those escalated to the high support team, also coordinate with the ServiceNow account team, working with the solutions consultant there, and you know, we're able to resolve, or better said, we were able to determine the workarounds and high log the defects into their system. So again, we're able to jump over some hurdles that we had unexpected, but with the Automate Pro application, we were able to quickly determine what those were and get on top of resolution paths as quickly as possible. So really appreciate the time. And now I'm going to hand this back over to Mark.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Brian. And thank you, Dennis. That's just a fabulous story. And as you can tell, with such a tight time frame, I think without leveraging the power of Automate Pro, that time frame would have been very difficult, if not impossible, to hit. So again, thank you for sharing that story. That's a real life example. And hopefully you all got great value out of that. So we're going to wrap up the program now with some Q&A. So if you do have a question, please feel free to enter it into the Q&A button at the bottom of the Zoom screen, and we'll be happy to answer any questions you might have at this time. Well, hey, Paul, I'll ask you a question. So what's the biggest challenge that you see clients coming up with when it comes to upgrades, and how does Automate Pro? I know we've already talked about, obviously, the speed that you can do it, the documentation, but is there one area that just comes up over and over and over again that organizations run into challenges with that the Automate Pro solution rectifies?
Yeah, it's a good question, actually. I'd say there's 2 areas mainly, Brian. That's oh, sorry, Mark, get mixed up now.
People get us confused all the time, Paul. It's all right.
No, it's easy done. Yeah, so the one of the key things is that people always say, oh, you know, my ServiceNow environment is heavily customized. You know, we've put a lot of custom UI pages on, or we've configured it in a very odd way. You know, maybe it's legacy. I think you mentioned right at the beginning, you know, some ServiceNow instances have been around a while and things have been bolted on and you know, and configured and customized over the time. And people, you know, always a little bit concerned that the Automate Pro product won't be able to test those customizations. And I think to date, we've never had a situation where we can't test a customized version of ServiceNow. There's no area that we, you know, that the tool can't test automatically. You know, even things like the agent workspace, customized portal. I mean, we ourselves have got a heavily customized customer and partner portal. So we know that we can test heavily customized areas because we do it ourselves. I mentioned that we upgraded just recently to Rome. You know, we fully regression tested all of our heavily customized portal. So customizations don't concern us. And we hear a lot of talk about people going back to out of the box. and doing year-long Z boot projects because they've heavily customized. I personally, I don't think that should be a reason to do a Z boot project. There may be other good reasons for doing that, but that shouldn't be one of them. Just so that's one aspect. The other one we touched on, Mark, before as well, which is end-to-end testing. That's the biggest challenge. People say, well, our ServiceNow instance is connected to 4, 5, 6 other platforms. It doesn't live on its own. We need to be able to test those integrations. And again, the power of Automate Pro's intelligent test automation is that it can follow the process almost from, I call it cradle to grave. So you start with a record being created in, external system XYZ, then it goes into ServiceNow, somebody processes it, that fires off something to another system. Let's go and follow that process all the way through. And of course, you saw the documentation earlier as well. You can also press a button and get that end-to-end documentation. So I'd say those were the two key things that kind of trouble people.
Great, Paul. Thank you. And absolutely. I mean, what I've heard over the last 10 years, over and over and over again, is that's the biggest reason organizations put off upgrading, is because, especially if they're legacy, because back in the day, if you started on ServiceNow in the early days of Aspen or Calgary or Berlin, and back then you had to customize a lot, right? Because the functionality wasn't already built, and ServiceNow actually touted the fact that it was open source and that you could do anything with it. But as they matured and added more and more functionality, what we found happen is when organizations went to upgrade that were customized, those customizations were breaking. So the beauty of the Automate Pro platform is it eliminates that problem. So great answers, Paul. Thank you for that. And we've got a bunch more questions now. So thank you to the audience.
Before we jump on with
Brian, go ahead, please.
I just had a couple of quick questions for Paul. One of the unique things that I had noticed from an application perspective was the live playback of the test scripts, right? The actual click-through of the process and showing the actual functionality testing that's happening, throughout the execution of the test scripts themselves. So Paul, can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's one of the features that probably singly people, sort of the jaw dropping moment or the pen dropping moment normally, when you show that ability to play that back. Now, of course, from a tester's perspective, that's a great thing to have. You've got all of the evidence of each of the steps of the process being executed. It's a real representation. We're very careful that that's an actual screen grab of what the user will see. So we're very, very careful about that, especially with heavily regulated organizations. If you're, got auditors looking over your shoulder all the time, you need to be able to provide that evidence. But actually what we find is that not only does that help testers, but of course, as Dennis spoke to, kind of helps the whole of the team working, because you can see exactly what's happened during the process, where it's gone wrong. So you can have team gathering around that and saying, hey, look, this is where it went wrong. It was all right at that screenshot, but then the next step, it went wrong here, and the developers can have a look and see, oh, okay, but hang on a minute, they used the wrong menu option at this point, or I can see that value's gone wrong. So you get this kind of compound efficiency by being able to view exactly what's happened during the execution.
Yeah, well said. And I think the other part of it too is, not only from a testing perspective and during your daily scrums or whatever, that you're, identifying those certain functionality callouts or changes, you're also identifying those from an end user perspective, right? And you can use those for quick reference guides and communications as the release is actually happening and when the go live occurs. So, I think that's another really valuable aspect of the application where, I don't think that there's anything out there today that leverages that. So I think that's a huge differentiator today. And then I also wanted to follow up with, from a defect tracking perspective, you showed the document that was provided or that's created with the Usain Bolt example, but, can you talk a little bit about how the interaction of that form is and with the hyperlinks and being able to identify the defects and then also resolve those?
Yeah, so one of the things we were very keen on as IT professionals, having worked in IT for years and years, one of the things that test teams hate doing is raising defects, taking screenshots of what's gone wrong, and tracking those defects. So typically you see Excel being used to log defects and track them. You see things like Paint being used to take screenshots and mark them up with what's gone wrong. So the whole thing is very manual, very clunky. We all know that spreadsheets do not make good databases. You know, anyone can go in and edit them and amend them. So the whole defect tracking aspect we wanted to automate. So when a test is executed and a defect is identified, a defect record is automatically created by Automate Pro, and that's linked back to the test, and that test is linked back to the requirement. So you've got that automatic traceability all the way through the process. The defects are all produced in a consistent way. They all have a screenshot on, so you can see exactly what's gone wrong. So those, again, those sorts of things remove, you know, huge amounts of manual effort. I think one of the guys in the team that's been doing testing for years and years said that just defect sort of management and tracking alone takes, you know, anywhere between 50 and 60% of their time. So if you're spending all of that time doing defect management, then you're not doing testing, and that's really what you should be doing, is creating more test coverage and checking different scenarios and all of those sorts of things, you know, improving your quality.
Yeah, really, you know, leveraging the skill set of the developers and making them more efficient, right? That's
absolutely. Yeah.
And then one other comment that I'd like to make is, you know, we've been focused on the upgrade process and getting to the major upgrades, but this is also something that you can apply from a release schedule perspective, right? We can apply all of those scripts and leverage those moving forward, so that you have a process in place that would be able to follow the release schedules, any type of patching, you know, that's coming from ServiceNow, but also, you know, up until the major upgrade that you're doing internally, you're able to track as well. So another great example of the value that it brings.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think people who use our products sometimes focus very much on the upgrades, because that's the, you know, that's the elephant in the room, if you like, and, you know, that's the big pain. But of course, once you've built your regression test pack out for the upgrades, you know, we advocate that you run that every single night. You know, and you can run that against all your environments. So it actually becomes a kind of configuration management tool, because if you come in the morning and the regression test pack has failed against the, I don't know, your QA environment or your staging environment or something, then maybe gone in there and, you know, tinkered with the configuration, or taken some roles or some groups out, or changed, you know, sneakily changed an ACL that's affected the functionality. So you get that immediate reporting on uncontrolled change. So a lot of organizations use it in that kind of way to get value as well.
Fantastic.
That's great. Yeah.
Thanks, Paul. Brian. I'll pass it over to Mark now. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we've got just a couple more questions. We got about 5 or 6 minutes left, and I want to get to a couple of these because the audience woke up and really did a great job of answering or asking a bunch of questions. So the first one is, how does the Automate Pro solution differ from what ServiceNow provides with their automated test framework?
Yeah, so a key fundamental difference, and it is a technical one, I'm afraid, but Automate Pro is built on Selenium, and Gartner have recognized that Selenium is the de facto standard engine for doing automated testing. The automated test framework from ServiceNow uses some other technology that's not Selenium. So that the reason why that's important is because Selenium allows you to follow the user's interaction with the system exactly as the user will use it. It's going back to the quadrant that we said, the success, the fast quadrant. One of the success criteria is that on a Monday morning, you want to know that when your users come in and request a new laptop or raise a security incident, that the process that they will follow to do that has been tested exactly like the user. And Selenium is the only framework that allows you to do that. Now, there's lots of other differences as well, especially around being able to test customizations that we've talked about, being able to test other platforms other than ServiceNow. So those are the kind of key ones.
Excellent.
That are covered off. Yep.
All right, let's get to a couple more. The next one is, what level of initial configuration or ongoing maintenance does this tool require?
Yeah, and so initial configuration. So we have some what we call quick start AI tools to build tests. We recognize, one of the big problems with test automation is that you have to build the tests in the first place. We wanted to overcome that. We did with our quick start AI technology. This is super cool stuff. You basically point it at your ServiceNow instance at a kind of template record, whether that be a catalog item or an incident that you want to create a test scenario for. You press a button and Quick Start AI goes and examines the configuration of your ServiceNow instance and works out what that test should look like. So it works out what fields are on there, whether they're read-only, mandatory, et cetera, and it builds you a test specific to your instance. So it gets you going really, really quickly. You can build out a lot of tests very, very quickly. The maintenance aspect, again, that's something we really wanted to address. That problem, huge problem with test automation, is when you change your configuration, you then have to go through all of your tests and amend them. We've solved that problem by using something called model blocks. So these are kind of reusable components, such that when you change one part of your system, you only have to change that model block, and that change ripples through all of the places where that block is used. It's a bit of a game changer. I was talking to a customer the other day, and they said they got the idea of model blocks, and they realized suddenly this is a game changer in test automation.
Fantastic. Yeah, definitely above all others in the field, that's for sure. Just a couple more questions. First of all, what about domain separated environments? And what is the oldest ServiceNow version Automate Pro can upgrade from?
Oh, wow. First, so domain separated, that's an easy one. Yes, we can test domain separated environments. So if you're an MSP and you've got, 100 instances of ServiceNow running domain separated, not a problem. And in fact, it lends itself very well to that because we're logging in as actual users. So you can log in as customer A and check that they can see certain things and do certain things. And you can log in as customer B, check that they can only see certain things. So it lends itself very well to that. Second question was, that's gone out of my head. Could you remind me what it was, Mike?
Yeah, that was the what's the oldest ServiceNow version AMP can upgrade from?
Yeah, so we go back as far as Eureka. I'm pretty sure no one's on on Eureka.
Let's hope not. It would have been forced upgraded by now, I would imagine, by ServiceNow, but that's great. So that shows you, this is a tried and true, been around for a long time on this platform, and it definitely works. The last question that's come through is, can you talk a little bit about the upgrade comparison report? Someone must have some familiarity with your platform.
Yeah, so as I mentioned on the fast quadrant, our aim is that you have a button to simplify the upgrade process that says, tell me about this upgrade. What's the risk of upgrading to, let's say, Rome, if you're on Quebec. So we wanted to get to that point. So what you can do with Automate Pro is effectively hit a button which says, if I was to upgrade today, which parts of the business processes would be affected? So what would break, basically? And as an ex-program manager, program director, that's the report that I always wanted. I would say, what is the risk of upgrading? Tell me how many of my critical business processes are going to fail in a serious way, in a critical way. How many of my medium ones are going to fail? How many low ones? Now, as a program manager or as a platform owner, I can make a decision. Do I proceed with the upgrade and accept those things, or do we need to fix them and retest them, and then I'll upgrade? So that's what the upgrade comparison report does. It's effectively an upgrade risk report. Tell me am I ready to upgrade?
Fantastic. So you're telling me that there actually is an easy button in life?
There is an easy button.
There is one other question that we have, Paul, and I'll just throw it at you real quick. How is Automate Pro also being used in the DevOps end-to-end testing and with ServiceNow solutions?
Yeah, so Automate Pro, we often talk about the testing capabilities within Automate Pro, but it is in effect a DevOps platform built within ServiceNow. So we cover everything from gathering requirements in test-driven development method. So if you're interested in doing that, it's pretty transformational, but it can transform the way and speed that you can develop on ServiceNow. So everything from planning, developing, testing. We've also got modules for automatically deploying update sets. So there's a logical progression from being able to automatically test to automatically deploying update sets from one environment to another and testing that those work. So we follow the process into automated deployment. We've also got an automated monitoring tool. So once you've deployed new updates into production, you obviously want to monitor those to make sure they're performant, they're available, and they're secure. So you can use Automate Pro to do that. And then, of course, there's the documentation piece as well. So we kind of follow the whole DevOps life cycle beyond just testing.
Yeah, it's really fantastic. Thanks for that, Paul. Appreciate it. Mark, I'll just pass it over back to you.
I'll wrap up by saying again, if you want to take advantage of the free upgrade evaluation, you can do so by either reaching out to your JIT sales rep, or you can reach us at promo@jitrs.com. And again, that's valid through September 30th. So you've got a couple of months. Again, I want to thank Paul. I want to thank Brian. I want to thank Dennis. And behind the scenes, I want to thank Jennifer Johnson, our Director of Marketing, who is running all the slides and helped get us all in order here today. If you'd like to learn more about anything that you've heard today or about JIT in general, please visit us at www.jitrs.com. And with that, I will bid you all adieu. Thank you very much for attending. We hope you got a lot of value out of this, and we hope to hear from you very soon. Have a great, wonderful afternoon.